Everyone has problems. Some small, some overwhelming. But the difference between people who stay stuck and people who rise, it's not intelligence, it's not resources, it's their ability to pause and listen before they act. You see, most people try to solve problems by doing more. They panic, they vent, they look for answers in 100 different places, scrolling, texting, overanalyzing, second-guessing. And what they don't realize is, all that noise, it's part of the problem. Because real solutions, the deep ones, the kind that change your life, they don't come when your mind is loud. They come when it's quiet. That's what the Stoics practiced. They didn't rush toward chaos. They stepped back from it. They knew that between the problem and the reaction, there's a moment of stillness. And in that moment, you can see clearly, no panic, no noise, just truth. It's not easy. Silence can feel uncomfortable, even painful. But if you can sit in it, even for a little while, you'll start to hear the real answers rising from a place most people never visit. If you're tired of running in circles, if you're done making the same mistakes and calling it bad luck, then this might be the shift you've been needing. Because solving your problems doesn't always start with action. Sometimes it starts with silence. And if something in you feels that truth, if it clicks, even a little, drop a quiet "I'm ready" in the comments. Let the world know you've stopped chasing noise and started listening for clarity. Let's begin. Part 1. Sit in silence until the noise fades. If you've never done it before, it will feel strange, even uncomfortable, maybe even impossible at first. Just sit. No phone, no music, no journal, no distractions, just you and your mind. 30 minutes, 60 if you're bold. Most people have never done this in their entire lives. Not once, not without grabbing something to do or somewhere to be. Because silence reveals things, and that terrifies most of us. But here's what happens when you stay. The surface level thoughts, they start to scream. Everything from your to-do list, to past conversations, to insecurities, all of it rushes up. That's normal. That's the noise. Let it pass. Don't judge it. Don't chase it. Don't run from it. Just observe, and then, after 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes, it starts to quiet. That's when something deeper shows up. That's when your real thoughts start to surface. The ones beneath the fear. The ones you've been too busy to hear. The ones that hold actual wisdom. Don't call it intuition. Call it your inner compass. The Stoics didn't care what you labeled it. They just knew it existed. Epictetus said no. Man is free who is not master of himself. And to master yourself, you have to face yourself, not your persona, not your social media mask, not the version of you that performs for the world. The real you, that's who you meet in silence. And here's the beautiful part. Once the noise fades, you realize the problem you walked in with. It's not as big as it felt. It might still be complicated. It might still require work. But it's not chaos anymore. You've just created distance. You've created perspective. Because silence does something nothing else can. It shows you that you are not your thoughts. You're the one watching them. And from that place, that clarity, the answer comes. Not always in words. Sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes it's a sudden knowing of what must be done. But it comes, always. You don't have to believe me. You just have to try it next time you're overwhelmed. Before you call someone, before you Google it, before you spiral, sit. Set a timer if you have to. No talking, no typing, just breathe and listen. Because the loudest problems in your life often have the quietest solutions. And you won't hear them until you're willing to go somewhere most people never go. Into the silence. Part 2. Let the inner voice speak before the outer world does. The moment something goes wrong, what do most people do? They reach out. They call a friend, send a text, jump into a podcast, scroll TikTok for answers, Google 100 opinions. They run straight to the world before they've even heard from themselves. That's the problem, because the world doesn't know your life. It doesn't know your values, your pain, your strengths. It gives generic advice for a personal problem. And suddenly, you're even more lost than before. That's why you need to pause and listen to the voice within before anyone else's voice gets involved. Now, let's be honest. Most people don't trust that voice. It feels too quiet, too subtle, not polished, not confident. But that's because it's buried under years of noise, and you haven't built the habit of listening to it. But the more you do, the more you realize something powerful. You've always known. You knew the relationship was over long before it ended. You knew that decision at work didn't sit right. You knew what you needed to do. You just didn't like how uncomfortable it felt. That quiet instinct, that gut knowing, that's your internal compass. And it's sharp if you give it space to speak. The Stoics weren't against taking advice. They weren't anti-conversation, but they believed deeply in self-trust. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Translation: people won't always agree with your truth. But if you've truly heard it, and it's aligned with your principles, you move forward anyway. You trust yourself even when others don't see it, even when they question it, even when they laugh at it. That's real power. And it starts with tuning in before tuning out. So how do you hear that inner voice? You do nothing. You sit, like we said in part 1, and then, instead of chasing answers, you let them rise. They might come as questions. Is this really the life I want? They might come as truths you've been avoiding. I'm staying. Out of fear, not love. They might come as ideas. Maybe I need to move on, even if it's hard. You'll be tempted to dismiss them, to say, nah, that's just emotion. But give them a second look, because the inner voice doesn't demand attention. It deserves it, and once you've heard it, really heard it, you won't need to ask 10 people what to do. You'll already know. You just needed permission to trust what's always been there. Part 3. Ask, what's within my control? Now that you've slowed down the noise, now that you've actually heard your own voice, not just the world's opinion, here comes the turning point. You ask yourself one question: what is actually within my control? Because this, right here, is where 90% of people get stuck. They spend all their time, energy, emotion, trying to change things that are completely out of their hands. They obsess over how someone feels about them, over what already happened, over how long something will take. What if it fails? What if it doesn't work out? And the Stoics would just shake their heads, because none of that matters. None of it is yours to control, and trying to will always lead to suffering. Epictetus said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." Simple, direct, brutal. So let's apply that now. You're facing a problem, something real, something hard. Ask yourself, right now, what part of this do I actually control? You'll usually find only a few things: your response, your attitude, your next action, the story you're telling yourself. That's it. Not the outcome, not the other person, not the past. And that realization, it's not defeat, it's freedom. Because now you're not scattering your energy everywhere. Now you can concentrate it where it actually matters. Let's say someone betrayed you. You can't change that. But you can decide what you'll do next. You can set a boundary. You can walk away. You can learn. Let's say your plan failed. You can't go back and undo it. But you can adjust. You can ask what you learned. You can rebuild smarter. The Stoics didn't waste time wishing the world was fairer. They got real. They said, what do I have power over? And then they focused everything there. That's how you solve real problems. You let go of the stuff that's not yours to carry. And you take full ownership of what is. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about being passive. It's about being strategic. Because when your mind is focused on what you control, you stop feeling helpless and start feeling powerful. Again, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do with this? You shift from victim to force of nature. So before we move on, pause for a second. Whatever problem you're facing right now, ask the question. Out loud, even. What part of this is mine to own? Circle that, highlight it, and that is where your answer will come from. Part 4. Zoom out. Will this matter in 5 years? When you're in the middle of a problem, it feels massive. Like the world is crashing down. Like every decision is life or death. Like one wrong move could ruin everything. But here's the truth. You're probably standing too close to it. You ever seen a painting where, if you stand inches away, all you see is a blur of colors? It's only when you take 3, 4, 5 steps back that the full picture reveals itself. That's your mind right now. You're up close, you're zoomed in. All you see is chaos, so zoom out. Way out, ask yourself one of the most powerful questions ever created. Will this matter in 5 years? Not emotionally, not dramatically, rationally. Will this argument, this rejection, this mistake, this missed opportunity, will it even show up on the radar of your future life? Because when you zoom out, most things shrink. And that shrinking creates space, space to breathe, space to think, space to choose wisely. The Stoics were masters of this. They practiced something called the view from above, a mental exercise where they'd imagine looking down on their life from the clouds, then from space, then from the stars. And what they realized was simple. Most of the things we obsess over mean absolutely nothing in the grand scheme. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Think of the whole universe of matter, and how small your share. Think of the whole expanse of time, and how brief, almost momentary, the part marked for you." Translation: stop acting like this one moment defines you. It doesn't. So what does this mean practically? It means before you act out of panic, you pause and gain perspective. It means before you blow up your day over a temporary inconvenience, you ask, will this even matter in a month? A year? 5? Sometimes the answer will be yes. Some problems are real. But even then, even when something will matter, the zoomed out view will help you respond with wisdom, not emotion, and most of the time, you'll realize the thing that's wrecking your peace today is something your future self won't even remember. It's not that it's fake. It's just small. And when you learn to shrink problems down to their true size, you stop giving them more energy than they deserve. So next time your chest tightens, your thoughts race, your hands want to type that angry message, pull back. Zoom out. Way out. Imagine your future self, 5 years older, wiser, stronger, looking back on this moment, what advice would they give you? What would they say is worth your time, and what's just noise? That perspective, that's your compass. Use it. Part 5. Pick one right action and do it immediately. So, you've sat in silence. You've listened to your inner voice. You've separated what's in your control. You've zoomed out and put things in perspective. Now what? Now you move. But not in every direction. Not in a panic. Not in a tentative overthinking spiral. You pick one right action and you do it. Now, because momentum, not perfection, is what breaks problems open. You don't need to solve everything today. You just need to move one brick. That could mean having the uncomfortable conversation, sending the email, saying no, writing the first line, taking the walk, making the call. Whatever it is, do the one thing you've been avoiding. See, your mind will want to delay. It'll say, let's think some more. Let's journal. Let's watch one more video about action before taking action. That's a trap. The Stoics believed in contemplation, but only when it led to action. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You sit in that imagination long enough, it becomes your reality. So break the loop. Even the smallest step changes your brain chemistry. It tells your mind, I'm not stuck, I'm doing something. And that single shift, it creates movement, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Here's the key. Don't wait until you feel ready. You won't. Do it while the fear is still there. Do it with doubt in your lungs. Do it messy, because forward is forward. And what if you pick the wrong action? Good. Now you've ruled something out. Now you've gathered data. Now you're in the arena, not just sitting on the sidelines of your own life. The Stoics didn't romanticize indecision. They believed that right now matters, not someday, not after I'm clear now. You can adjust course later, but you can't steer a parked car. So after this video, don't scroll. Don't think. Don't wait. Pick one right action. Trust the silence that got you here. And take the step, because problems don't shrink from thinking. They shrink from movement.